to the cloud.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting about checking that chat. It's
And they were asking about putting it, if this is gonna go on YouTube, we could try to put it on YouTube.
if it's recorded, Emil gets
Yeah.
it up. Yeah, we'll get it running.
Yeah,
This-
once it's recorded, we can distribute it.
Yeah, actually, this is our first, I know there's a lot of new faces here. We can introduce ourselves. I'm Dick, WB2JPQ. And this is our real first attempt really to do any kind of a program on Zoom. And Pres offered to do it, and I certainly took him up on it. For those of you that don't know, this Zoom room runs 24/7. So we're not only here at 7 o'clock on Friday nights, we're here, you know, all day, every day. There's usually somebody in the room from, say 8 in the morning, East Coast time till 10, 11 at night, sometimes later. So, you know, feel free to stop by and say hello, and that's what it's here for. So
Well,
I guess,
Dick, I didn't offer. You volunteered me. I said, all
well, I
right,
did.
sir.
it's actually Tony's fault.
Okay, yeah.
APL there I see in one of my screens.
Yeah.
And
He says, I got a DSTAR question for you, Preston. Before I knew it, Dick was like, hey, you know, oh boy, okay, here we go.
There's no sense in doing one DSTAR question, or, you know, let's do them, get a group together and so forth. So,
Well, there's nothing I love more than to give little talks. And I generally do it free form, although I did put together some notes, and I'm going to have some moments for questions. And there's gonna be a couple of links that I'll try to put up in the chat window to everybody as well.
all right. Well, we would like to, and pretty much, I guess everybody's got their call sign or name. If you don't know how to do it, you just left a right click on your picture, and you can go down to the rename box and rename you and put your call sign and name in. If you don't have a call sign, that's fine too, but makes maybe just a little bit easier. So we would appreciate it though if everybody is muted except for whoever is talking, and however you want to run it, Pres is fine with us. We'll just sit back here and enjoy. So, but if everybody stays muted, we should not have an issue.
Okay, well, it's up to you, boss. Whenever you want to get started.
Well, we said 7, it's after 7. You come late, you snooze, you lose, you know?
Okie dokie. So I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share. And y'all are going to look at my notes. And I do have some, you know, time allocated in this for questions. So does everybody kind of see my notepad here?
We
Okay.
do.
All right. I'm
Yeah,
assuming
okay.
I'm assuming everybody sees it. Speak now or forever hold your peace if you don't. All right. Well, this is an outline of what we're going to be doing. Okay. We're going to start with what is it? We're going to say, you know, who sells it? And, you know, why would you want it? What's the info needed?
You seem to have packet loss, Pres.
Oh, yeah. Jeez. Really? Is this any better?
Yes.
We get 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Maybe I should have been doing this from the other laptop. Let me know if it gets bad and I can try to real quick change over. But so we're going to talk about how many spaces are necessary, using memories, what's a reflector, question time, how do I register a question time. So these are the things we're going to go over tonight. Okay, so these are the topics I'm going to cover. And like I said, I do like questions. So we'll get started here with so DSTAR is the oldest amateur digital mode. It may be predated by P25 in the commercial world, but the first amateur digital mode, DSTAR, was a standard that was published in 2001 as a result of the JARL and the Japanese government working together. JARL is the Japan Amateur Radio League. A lot of people think DSTAR is ICOM. No, it's not. They just marketed it first. However, they did trademark the term DSTAR. So that's kind of a shame because it serves to repress a little bit. But you know what? They're working with other manufacturers. For example, ICOM even made Kenwood DSTAR radios in Japan. It's the craziest thing. Is everybody, can you see and hear what I'm talking about? Am I clear? All right,
Good over here.
So
You're good
also,
with ODF.
so it was always the ICOM show. If you were going to go to Hamfest and you wanted to pick up a D-Star radio, you know, you had your ID 880 and your ID IC91s and the ID 5100. But Kenwood did come out with the THD 74 a couple of years back, and that was a 2-meter 440 and 220 D-Star radio. ICOM commercial brand portion does sell D-Star as IDAS. They also, ICOM and Kenwood, plus over 20 others manufacturers, also sell NXDN. So that's a completely different digital mode. But I just want to tell you that there's a lot of digital things going on out there. And of course, as everybody probably well knows, you've got DMR, you've got Yaesu Fusion, you've got D-Star, you've got NXDN, you got P25. So we're pretty much going to focus on D-Star tonight just to talk about what it is. So the benefits of D-Star over regular FM is it's a much narrower bandwidth, about 1.2 kilohertz of deviation. So there's better range and spectrum efficiency. Why is there better range? Well, we all know that with the narrower the bandwidth, the more effective your receiver sensitivity is. So there is a bit of an improvement in range. In other words, most people say that, you know, watt for watt, D-Star may go about 20% further than analog FM, but when it's gone, it's gone. So in other words, when you get down in the noise, it just drops off like a rock. In fact, it gets kind of weird because the codec, the encoder decoder, the thing that makes the audio starts to make stuff up. So you get these weird squonky, squeaky noises when it gets noisy. So that's kind of fun. So I always say that, you know, the very best analog sounds better than the very best digital D-Star. Medium quality digital sounds better than medium quality analog if you've got some picket fencing in there. But, you know, really weak analog is going to get the job done because the human ear can take a signal down into the noise, whereas the D-Star codec just starts giving up and you know, either giving you nothing or crazy sounds we call R2D2. So is one better than the other? No, they're different, and they both have good points and bad points. So now, if you take nothing out of this, you got to take the 4 pieces of critical information. Every radio, every channel must be broadcasting 4 pieces of information. The first one is called your call. Now, strangely enough, your call does not mean your call. It means the call sign of the person you want to talk to. So for example, if I was looking to link directly to WB2JPQ, your call would be JPQ's call, okay? My call is going to be my call, my FCC call sign. Now your radio can also hold multiple my calls. So for example, when Nolan gets his license, Kevin and Nolan can both share a radio, and they can easily flip between Nolan's call sign as a my call and Kevin's call sign as a my call. The other 2 important ones here in the middle, RPT1 and RPT2. RPT1 refers to the first hop, the first RF point that you're talking to. It's the repeater itself. RPT2 is a companion to that repeater, which is called the gateway. So in other words, RPT1 may be W2PW space B, and RPT2 might be W2PW space G. It refers to the gateway that gets you into the internet. Now, that's a lot right there. So I think I'm going to pause and see if anybody has any clue of what I'm talking about in the your calls and the my call. Does anybody have any questions about what those are? And we'll get into detail, but I just want to see where everybody's going with this. Anybody have any question on what we're talking about? All right, hearing nothing. So what's important is that these are both right and left hand justifies to a total of 8 characters. You must fill spaces in the middle as needed. Now in my demonstration here, spaces are shown as a single quote, okay? So for example, if I was to put a your call of REF020AL, that's a linking command that says I want to connect to Reflector 20 alpha, and you notice that there are exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 characters in here. That's super important. Let's use a shorter one. Let's say I was going to use W2PWB module. Well, I need 8 characters. So I do W2PW space B. Okay. If I was going to link to a call sign of W2TOB, I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you see, I'm filling up that your call field with exactly 8 characters. It must be 8 characters. And if there's stuff in the middle, you put a space there. So this is how I would link to a reflector. I would put in the name of the reflector under your call, which is REF020A, and then L would be to link command. So why do we have reflectors? Well, reflectors are just like reflectors in analog. They're common points of communication. So if I take my D-Star radio and I want to link up to a reflector 20 alpha, I'm going to set a your call, okay, of REF020AL to link to REF020 alpha. This is a lot of information right here. So I need to sort of pause and see if anybody has any clue of what I'm talking about in this 4 magic fields business. Does anybody have any questions about how this goes? Well, we're through the hardest of it. Okay. That's the good news. So let's say I wanted to unlink the reflector. Well, now I'm going to send a U at the end of my your call. And it's, again, right-hand justified. So I've got 7 spaces and a U to unlink. Conversely, if I wanted to do an echo test where I hear myself come back, 8 characters, 7 of which are spaces, and there's an E. So this is what it looks like in the radio. Let's see if I can get it to stop being so. There we just as I. Let me try this here. The your call UR is blank 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 E. The R1, which is the first RF point that I'm talking to, says W2PW space B. And then the gateway R2 is W2PW space G. And then the my call is W2PW. And you can also have a 4-character extension, which is generally a short version of your name. Okay. Fred, Dick, Pres, JOS for Joseph, or JOE for Joseph. Okay. So those are the 4 fields that you put in. The your call field, the R1 field, the R2 field, and the my call field. So with this said, W2PW is testing 1, 2, 3, W2PW.
W2PW is testing 1, 2, 3, W2PW.
So this is an echo test, and I am sending to my own little hotspot, which we're going to talk about hotspots in a minute. I'm sending the E character, and every time I do that, the entire transmission is repeated back to me.
So this is an echo test, and I am sending to my own little hotspot, which we're going to talk about hotspots in a minute. I'm sending the E character, and every time I do that, the entire transmission is repeated back to me.
Now, you notice also on the bottom there says message, MSG. We're going to talk about at the end of this. But every outgoing transmission can have a message as well. That message could be a status, like I'm en route or I'm on scene. But we'll talk about that at the end of this talk. But basically, the way some people organize this is they're going to have a bunch of memories for the very same repeater. And that memory, first memory might be, I'm going to send CQ because that means I'm going to talk to anybody. I'm going to send reflector 1 link because I want to link to reflector 1. I'm going to send reflector 20 alpha link because I want to check reflect 20 alpha, or I want to unlink. So what I'm saying is you could have memories for different functions on the same repeater or gateway. In other words, instead of going in and manually just changing your outgoing stuff, you memorize that and you say, okay, memory 1 is going to be, I want to link up to 1 alpha. Memory 2 is going to I want to link up to 20 Charlie. So if you follow what I'm saying, so you can have various, you can memorize various functions for the very same repeater. And I see that I have got spaces for questions in here. So I'm going to open up the floor. Does anybody need a catch up, or does anybody have any questions about what we talked about so far? I should be waiting, I guess, for people to do hands up. Is anybody doing hands up or something like that, Dick? So I realize if everybody's
Question.
I'm not going to know if anybody needs questions.
You
Yeah,
might
and
want,
I'll-
you might
and
want
I'll-
to unshare your screen and see
Exactly.
anybody. We only can see a few people on the top side row when you share your screen, so you can't see anybody. So now would be a good time to ask any questions, raise your hand or anything like that.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Spaces that you programmed in your radio, was that done via the keyboard or was that done via computer?
You could do it via the keyboard. You can do it via the computer. A lot of people like, a lot of people say that the RT Systems is a very friendly software. They get about $50 for the software and the cable, give or take. Chirp will also program your D-Star radio. You can also get some software from the manufacturer. So yes, the your call field where we have these different linking and unlinking commands, that's where you'd make your changes. I want to link up to this reflector. I want to link up to that reflector. I want to do an echo test. I want to unlink any reflector. I want to make a general call to anybody, which is CQ, CQ, CQ for your outgoing your call. Are there any questions about that?
I've got one question for you.
Sure.
Just talking about that, did you want to get involved with like the call sign routing and all that, or is that too advanced, you think?
I wasn't going to touch on that too much because it's a
Okay.
function that personally I feel is not done that often. But as you say, there is a concept called call sign routing. In other words, I could put in WB2JPQ in my your call, and the system will find him. Like, let's say he was on vacation. He gets off the plane in Arizona, and he chunks and he just activates his handheld on a local repeater down there. At that point, until further notice, calls can be routed to JPQ. But as I say, I found that to be very seldom used. I don't think it's that popular, but it is possible. Just to touch on that. That's kind of an advanced thing. But yes, you can directly route a call to another user.
Yeah, we tried it actually with the IRC DDB gateway software, and it didn't work. You got to do the native ICOM software, the G2 or the G3, backbone, and that was the only way that it would work. So,
and one of the other drawbacks of that is if you were to do a call sign routing to a user whose repeater was connected to a reflector, you've just entered that world, much like All-Star, where everybody is on even playing field. So if I was to be linked up to Wind System, and then I also linked to the East Coast Reflector, well, I've just joined those two worlds.
exactly.
And so the whole concept of call sign routing can be a little dicey.
Yeah. No, we have here in Buffalo, we've got 2 repeaters, and we tried all sorts of problems. Matter of fact, we had the Canadian ICOM rep over here working on it, and he couldn't even get it to work. So
Yeah,
we pretty much abandoned it. So
let's just leave it. It can be done, but it's
there's really no point. Exactly.
Does anybody else have any questions? I can't see everybody, so I'm gonna trust, I guess, Dick, if you can.
You gotta slide, you gotta move screen sideways, however you're set up.
Yep. All right, well, let's get back into it. Okie dokie. All right. So what the heck is modules? Well, you notice that, like, for example, I have at the end of like this field right here, it says W2TOB space B. Well, B simply means that that's a module or a radio repeater on the 440 band. If you find a C, it's going to be on 2 meters. If you find an A, it's going to be on 1296. But you'll also find that it looks like modules on the reflectors, like Reflector 20 alpha. That does not mean it's a 1.2 gigahertz reflector. It just means it's the A portion of Reflector 20. Now, so Reflector 20, much like the IRLP reflector system where they've got 10 channels, the reflector system has multiple channels. Reflector 20B is not the same as Reflector 20A, nor is Reflector 20C. So the most popular reflectors, definitely Reflector 1 Charlie. That is like a worldwide, the big mama of all reflectors. Reflector 20 alpha is used greatly in the Northeast, but although like the East Coast Reflector is used worldwide, you can use Reflector 20 alpha wherever you are. It's just that a cluster of Northeast, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut repeaters are on 20 alpha. 30 Charlie is popular down in the Southeast. So these are just reflectors. You can, you can go to anyone you want. Now, let's see, reflectors.asp. Okay, let me make sure that I got this. So you can go to dstarinfo.com and you can go to Reflector List. And this will give you a flavor of what kind of reflectors there are out there.
Remote system link.
Why am I, does not appear to be moving forward. I didn't even see an enter button on here. Well, let's try this. Let's go to this one here. Well, I don't know why I'm not able to open that, but I'm going to pop this up into the chat so that y'all can take note of that one. This is a list of reflectors. Once again, why am I still loading?
Starting
right,
to get a little packet loss again, Press.
Yeah, I think so. All right, let's go back into the talk here. Registration. Okay, this is one of the most popular questions. What's registration? Why do I have to register? What the heck is that all about? Well, you do register your call sign into the network, all right? Once. Now, this is important. You register only once worldwide. You do not have to register with any particular system. You just have to register with one of them. You can pick your local one, or you can pick a nationwide one. It doesn't really matter. Again, once you've registered, it's worldwide forever. You do not need to register twice. It's actually not a good idea to keep registering twice. So I hope I've kind of put that into your head here. There are basically 3 steps you're going to do. The first step is you're going to go to the system page of a DSTAR repeater. You're going to click on new user. I'm going to go through this. We're actually going to demonstrate this. Then the second step is you're going to wait for the system admin to approve you. Hopefully they'll do it quickly so you know when it's happened. And then you're going to go back into that page and you're going to set what's called terminal IDs. Now, before I go on, does everybody feel ready to have a demonstration of the registration process? Does anybody have any questions before we go into the demonstration? I'm stopping sharing.
Is it just me, Press, or does everybody notice packet loss? It seems I've got packet loss here tonight.
I do too.
I
hear it too.
I'm
Yeah.
hearing it too.
I think it's coming from you then, Press.
All right, let me take a 3-minute recess, and I'm gonna go jump on another computer.
Should we go out to the lobby?
Yes, go out to the lobby and get some refreshments.
No, don't go to the lobby.
Let's impress to the lobby.
Yes, I need to go to the lobby.
All right, so we'll take a little potty break and
Take a little potty break,
all right.
and I'm gonna come back in a minute or two.
He seems fine till he shares his screen and then it goes all wonky.
Yeah, I noticed something here. And I never seen this before. When when I come off a mute and enable my mic, he clears right up. And I'm thinking, is it me?
Is there a way to show everybody instead of the speaking person? Why are we seeing the speaking person and not seeing everybody?
The way you're set, Bob, go up in the view and click on full view and gallery.
Oh, I
Top,
see.
top right hand corner.
Hey, Dick, it appears that when his computer was doing something, he was losing packets.
Yes.
I think it might have been like a bandwidth problem or something.
They have a problem on the island. He's had a problem with his repeater. Yes, he's on the island and they have an issue. Don't they, Tony?
We're going to register Dick in real time. You know, it doesn't have a DSTAR radio, but as we explained to Dick, there's no downside to having a registration in place. So
before Press, excuse me, before you start again, I'm adding all of the newer users to our mail server, and I've noticed that some do not have email addresses on QRZed. So if you could just add an email address on your QRZed page, and our system will catch up with you. Just so you know, we'll put you on our Christmas card list and so forth. Go ahead, Press. Thank you.
okay, so I'm assuming I'm on a better machine and I'm close to the router, so I suppose I'm better. All right.
Yeah, you sound fine.
Get back into it?
Let's give it a
Go ahead.
shot.
Okay. So all right. So the registration steps are actually outlined here. I'm doing chat. But we're gonna kind of go through it right now. So let's say that Dick was going to got a new radio, is going to get a new radio, it's on its way from HRO, and he wants to get registered. So what we would do is we would all right, now sometimes the reflector, sometimes the gateway PCs have expired certificates. This is nothing to be worried about. It just means that they haven't gotten an updated certificate. So you go to advanced and you go on to that website. So this right here, this is a dashboard that shows the activity of a particular DSTAR repeater or a particular reflector. Now this one is the DSTAR repeater that we use in Long Island. So you're going to see that currently this repeater is linked to Reflector 20 Alpha, and the last user heard was W2MGF from the Bronx. So we click over here to registration, and what we have here is a new user. You're right here. So we're gonna go ahead and register. All right. So there's a welcome message. This one in particular says, welcome to the W2TOB DSTAR registration. Important, if you've ever registered with any other DSTAR system, you do not need to register again. One registration is good worldwide. So we agree with that, and we're going to say, okay, WB2JPQ. All right. And we have Dick Lang, and he is WB2JPQ at AOL.com. And we're going to make his temporary password Dick1234. Dick1234, all lowercase. All right. So now we're going to okie dokie. It says, are you sure? And you say yes. So that is step one of the registration process. You have walked up to the server that you want to register with. Again, it doesn't matter which one. And you're going to request. So we say, okie dokie. It says administration will be reviewed by the administrator. You'll be notified by email when it's approved. All right. Now I'm going to change hats. Now I'm the administrator. Okay. And I go in. this is nothing that the user will ever see, but I'm just showing you behind the scenes what I would do. So I log in here, and what I have is WB2JPQ. We also have KJ7SHM, and that's new from an hour ago, so I don't know who that is. So I'm going to sit tight on that one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check to make sure that that person, Masato Uchada, is not registered anywhere else, and then I'm going to approve him. But let's say we're going to deal with Dick. So I go license. I update it. Are you sure? Yes. And then I'm going to log out because I got to log back in as Dick. Okay, so I'm going to log out. And now I'm going to come back in and I'm going to go WB2JPQ. I'm sorry, that's all caps. WB2JPQ and lowercase Dick 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Now, what do we do next? We're supposed to enter what's called terminal information.
We have a question. We have a question in the chat box. Excuse me. Ray would like to know what happens when you change your call sign.
Great question. Okay. What you'll do is you will go on and you will, in your login, I believe you can request to, no, what is this? You're going to ask the administrator to cancel that old registration and make a new one under your new call sign. Okay. So let's say that Dick had changed his call sign from W2ABC to WB2JPQ. He's going to do the same thing. He's going to go in, he's going to register under the new call sign W2JPQ. Now, here is his personal information. Does everybody see? Dick, I'm going to depend on you to kind of watch the hands and whatnot. See if everybody sees what we're doing here. We have his name, his email, and his password. He can change his password if he wants to. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to enter the first terminal ID, which is simply a space bar. You can't see it. It doesn't exist, but it's very important. Then we're going to do the terminal ID of alpha. That's all you have to do. You have to enter 2 terminal IDs. It doesn't matter if you do more than that. What you really need to do is the first one that is a space bar. That is an unseen space bar. Then you update and you are absolutely done. This is the point when you are done, you're registered, and you're ready to go in the DSTAR system. Okay? So the registration steps are in the chat. In the one that says here, firststeps.aspx, which is the last thing that I uploaded in the chat. Let's take a pause. Does anybody have any questions of what I did?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, I have 2 call signs. Can I register each of them?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all I wanted.
That was easy. That was easy. Now, once again, I stress, okay, Dick is now registered. It doesn't matter if he lives in Buffalo and my repeater's in Long Island. He could have registered in a repeater in Timbuktu. He's now registered worldwide. And the moment he gets a DSTAR radio, he's good to go.
I'm just waiting for Mike to tell me he's got one for sale, Pres.
Okay. All right. I think it's time to start talking about using it practically. So let's see. All right. We're registered. Okay. We've done the demonstration. All right. DSTAR resources. DSTARusers.org. So I guess I got to go back into, oh, can I do chat while I'm sharing? Now let's see. All right. Chat. All right. That's a general page of information to use. And there's also repeater lists. Now, gets interesting because a lot of the radios out these days, the ID31, the 51, 5100, and even the Kenwood DH74, they literally keep databases of repeaters nearby. And your GPS will give you a list of nearby repeaters. It'll even tell you a distance and bearing. So if you're on vacation and you get off the plane and you're in, Toledo, you can have your radio tell you what's the nearest D-Star repeater and how to get on it. So go back to the chat for a second and I'll upload that. Alrighty. Okay, back to share screen. Personal hotspots. What is a personal hotspot? Why would you need it? Well, here's a good example. I have 2 or 3 D-Star repeaters in range of my house, but both of them are locked to Reflector 20 Alpha because that's what the repeater owners decided to do. I decided I want to go in and talk on Reflector 1 Charlie. Well, maybe they don't want me to do that. So if I have my own hotspot, I'm the master of my own domain. So let me show you what a hotspot looks like. All right, so this little dude, if you disregard the gray thing on the bottom, which is a battery, which is a cell phone battery charger, that's a hotspot. It's so crazy tiny. So there's a display on it. It's hard to see because the camera's blooming, but this light right here is actually scanning between digital modes. It works D-Star, P25, Yaesu Fusion, DMR. So if I transmit to it with my D-Star handheld, it's going to light up. So let me see if I can show this. W2PW is testing. 3. W2PW. Yeah. It's too bright. It's blooming. But it's caught my D-Star signal. So now let's say I wanted to go on to Reflector 1 Charlie, which is the most popular one. So I would set my URCall to link to Reflector 1 Charlie. Now, just so I can show you what happens here, I'll show you the dashboard of there's literally a web server in that little thing right there. All right. So right now, this is a dashboard for this little bitty box, and I'm going to transmit W2PW testing 1, 2, 3.
So I wonder if my audio is improved there from the i5 today.
And just like that, I'm linked. All I had to do was send.
Yeah, your audio definitely improved. It still shows that it's the DUI.
Turning this down. So what I did was I sent REF001CL, that string right there. And that commanded my hotspot to go ahead and transmit to connect to Reflector 1 Charlie. So this is what I did. I went like that. REF001CL, and that commanded my hotspot to link up to Reflector 1 Charlie, 001C. Now, because my hotspot is simplex, I have to wait for a break in transmission to go ahead and unlink. But if I wanted to, I could just unlink from the dashboard. So I click unlink, request change.
IV5100. So I'm going to go back into that and turn the
And it is now not linked. Okay, so the status is not linked. All right, so what we've talked about so far is what is it? Who sells it? Why? The info needed, those magic 4 spaces. Memories, what's a reflector? Registration, hotspot or repeater. How do I use a hotspot? And we're now at a question point. So I'm going to stop sharing so that you can, we can all see if anybody has any questions about what we've covered so far. Anybody raising hands? Anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourself. Okay, Pete, go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
I have noticed that there are a variety of hotspots out there.
Yes.
Some of them are very expensive, and at least one of them is quite inexpensive.
Yep.
The one that's least expensive, is there something about it that it doesn't do, or is something wrong with it that it? The one,
good question.
The one in question is the jumbo spot. It's $100. The next one up is at least double that. Is there a reason why it's less?
I haven't purchased every hotspot out there. I have some experience with an early one, which is called DVAP, which is DSTAR only.
Right.
And then they came out with this little one, which is an MMDVM. Which
that's the one I'm referring to.
And what is this whole thing? It's like under $100, right? It's the Pi Zero, it's the antenna, it's the MMDVM card, and it's the Pi-Star software. I mean, how can you go wrong? Well, why would you spend more money? Well, they do make duplex hotspots. Duplex hotspots are only important if you want to be able to unlink. Let's say I linked up to a busy reflector, 1 Charlie, and yap. Well, of course, since it's simplex, I have to wait until they stop yapping so that I can send an unlink command. That's where a duplex hotspot comes in well. You can listen and transmit duplex fashion. When you're using DMR mode, okay, you can only use 1 time slot on a simplex, but you can use both time slots on a duplex. So with money, you get honey. That's what you can spend more money on. But personally, if you're just looking to get your feet wet and find out what's going on, get the little guy. And then when you broaden your horizons, it's not like you're not going to want to have the little guy. Like, for example, this thing is so tiny, I could toss it in my pocket, in my jacket pocket. Okay, you can use this tethered to your cell phone. You can use it in the car. So there's no reason why you can't have 2 hotspots. One nicer one for the more features that you've got come accustomed to, and one little basic one just for it's a tiny little grab and go.
All right. So the jumbo spot that RNL sells, that's an okay thing to get.
I've heard nothing bad about the jumbo spot, but a lot of this is the software. You know, Pi-Star is a very, very well done program. They are just, you know, to be greatly commended, the stuff that they've done. A hotspot is nothing without its operating system. So we'll show a little bit about what the hotspot does. So this is my digital voice dashboard. Again, this is a web server that's inside that itty bitty little Pi. And what I can see here is that I've got MMDVM host, which is the software that connects to the modem. I've got DMR. I got Yaesu Fusion. Okay, I've got gateways to DMR, Yaesu Fusion, and IRC-DDB. So, you know, essentially, I've got multiple modes enabled in this thing. Okay, I've got DMR, I've got DSTAR, I've got Yaesu Fusion, and I can go at this thing with my Yaesu Fusion radio and be in the Yaesu network, go on my DMR radio and be in Brandmeister, or that new TGIF, or I can be on DSTAR. So it's very cool software, and it's free. You download it. It comes preloaded on some of these chips when you buy something like that, and that's a lot of magic right there. So the hardware and the software work very well together.
You're looking at this through a PC, right?
Yes.
Do you have to have
it on your phone?
Do you have to have a PC to talk to this thing?
You can use your phone. If you're tethering to your phone, So you set the Wi-Fi up to grab your Wi-Fi from your phone. And the order I would do it in is, if I was coming at this thing and starting off, I would connect up my phone sitting here in the house. I would attach it to the phone. Then I would turn the phone off, the hotspot on the phone off, and then I would attach it to my house and go in order. So what it'll do is it's going to look for the phone. If it's going to look for the phone, it's not going to find the phone because you're home. And then it's going to grab your house. Then you leave the house, and it's going to start looking around for Wi-Fi, and you turn your hotspot on your phone on. It goes, okay, I'm good, and then it'll link up to the phone.
Actually,
So,
would be my time because I have nothing else.
Couple questions in the
Okay.
chat box.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. DMR-FUSION, DSTAR, all on the same hotspot. Yes. Different simplex frequency. No. The RF frequency is set it's chosen in the in Pi-Star. And as I mentioned before, there's some scanning that goes on. Again, this is a very bright LED. In fact, I put some tape across it. It's still too bright, but you might see that it's actually scanning. It's hard to tell, but different colors.
Yeah, we can tell.
You can see it shimmering. So, green is DSTAR, blue is DMR, whatever, different colors. So if I take my DSTAR radio and I kerchunk at it, I'm going to be talking to the DSTAR mode. And then it locks it into DSTAR mode for 20 seconds, and then it goes back to scanning. So then I grab my DMR handheld, and all of a sudden I'm in DMR world. And you can activate as many modes as it will select. The benefit of keeping it low, though, is that scanning thing I talked about. If you had all 5 modes and you didn't own more than 1 or 2 mode radios, you're wasting time checking for like NXDN that you don't own. So you only activate the mode that you have and want to use. Now, some people will have a different hotspot for each mode because they're $100. So you can have a hotspot on 438.7 on DSTAR, 438.8 on DMR, 438.9 on Fusion. So some people solve it by saying, hey, I just want to have 3 and not be bothered by that. So you can have 1 or more hotspots in the house. Second question, no hotspot means what again? We are on Reflector 20 Alpha, always a reflector. So your local repeater may or may not have it chosen. Now, we have a small network of New York area repeaters, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, that are on 20 Alpha. This HT right now is listening to a genuine repeater up on a hill, and it's on 20 Alpha. Now, if I were to connect, let's say I'm just representing the small radios to my hotspot, the big radios to the repeater. They do look a little bit, let's see, this is literally the smaller. All right, so if I go on and I connect to 20 Alpha, all right, I'm going to connect to 20 Alpha. So all I do is I kerchunk. Link to. Let's see. Is it going to cooperate or no? Yeah, I think it's linked. Okay. W2PW is testing. 1, 2, 3. W2PW.
Link to REF020 Alpha.
Okay, so I'm going to go with 20 Alpha on my hotspot. W2PW is testing. 1, 2, 3. W2PW. I'm going into my hotspot, going through the network, shooting up the repeater on the hill, and coming back out.
You're making it in just fine. 20 Alpha. I'm using a hotspot right now. I'm too far from the Philadelphia repeater. They should put it up 100 feet higher so I could get it.
Well, Rick, thanks for coming back. You're actually live on a demo. We're on a Zoom room, and we're demonstrating and discussing how DSTAR works. If you wanted to join us, we're at bit.ly, bit.ly/ECR daily, Echo Charlie Romeo daily, bit.ly/ECR daily. So you just jumped in the middle of a demonstration. So thanks. I'll let you get going. and we'll talk to you later. W2PW.
WS3 RIC, well, happy to be a test. I'm actually mobile right now, so I couldn't go in on the Zoom meeting. But yeah, I like the idea of D-Star. It's fun. I wish there were more repeaters around. All right, 73, enjoy it. Shoot me an email with that link if you wanted to, somebody that's listening. That's my call sign at gmail.com. That's WS3RIC@gmail.com. I'd love to join you guys next time.
I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
On the
Go
lower
ahead.
part of the screen there, it had something, then a percentage, a number and a percentage sign. What is that?
Astute observer noticed that. Okay, so when my hotspot's transmitting to me, it sends me the guy's call sign. It sends me his outgoing message, which we'll talk about the last thing in this talk. And it also says the bit error rate, 0.4%. So that's how you know that your hotspot is tuned well. If you start getting bit error rates of 2, 3, 5, 10%, then you know you've got to make an adjustment in your hotspot software. It may be off a few ppm, and so that's what bit error rate's all about.
Thank
you. Okay, so KD2TWO, did I adequately answer your question? No hotspot means what again? We're on 20 alpha. And KB3SNM, Bob says, if I'm registered in DSTAR, am I also registered in DMR? No, you are not. So DMR and DSTAR are different worlds, but as I mentioned, the same hardware can support both or more modes. But there's a different registration process in DMR as it is for DSTAR.
Press is KE7K. I got a question.
Hey, go ahead.
So sorry, I had to step out for a minute. Nolan's mom came and picked him up. On the Pi Star, can you get into that on analog, or can you only get into it with some type of digital radio? I was thinking that I could get a Pi Star and get into it just with an analog and come out digital somewhere else.
Super popular question. In fact, I've made a dual mode, analog and digital, and the first thing people say is, can I go between analog and digital? No, you really can't. You can transmit on FM and go through the All-Star portion. You can transmit on D-Star and go through the digital portion. That being said, there are rooms that will cross-connect together. Now, Dick can mention on our homepage on eastcoastreflector.com, there is a certain one or more certain D-Star reflectors that when you transmit on that, it takes your audio and puts it out into the All-Star network. And vice versa, it takes the audio from All-Star and puts it out on your hotspot in your house to your D-Star radio. Same thing with DMR. There are DMR to analog bridges. There are analog to D-Star bridges. There are DMR to P25 bridges. There's all kinds of bridges out there where you can jump between the worlds.
And we do bridge all the digital modes onto All-Star and IRLP.
Yep. So if
But
you go on
with the Pi Star,
you can list. I'm sorry.
But with the Pi Star, I can't come in analog and then get into the DMR world. I have to have a DMR radio. Okay.
Nope. That being said, I have heard rumors that they are beginning to dabble with analog support on an MMDVM, but I don't predict that that's going to be very soon because they have to do some extra work with channel drivers and things like that. The bottom line is, no, this is a digital access point for your digital radios. K2APL, you started this whole mess. Did you have any questions, Tony?
I do. Yes, I do, Press. A couple different things. That was one of the questions what Kevin just asked about, because I have the small Pi Star, and it's FM, and but my radio, I just got another radio here, or I got the first radio I got, does D-Star as well. Now, when I transmit on D-Star, I'm actually going to the repeater. Actually, it's your repeater. But can I go to my, my Pi a Raspberry Pi, and can I transmit
Your little
over
hotspot.
that, or is it strictly FM?
No, this
Yeah.
is not FM. This Pi-Star hotspot is digital. But when you set up a link or a connection to a certain DSTAR unit, reflector, or whatever it is, that operator has software that will put your audio into the East Coast Reflector and vice versa. So when you make a link through your hotspot to XRF, whatever it is, I forgot, you will hear what's being spoken on analog out on your digital portable, and you will go back in. Now, it's not as magic as you think it would be, because there's some audio conversion, and you're going to wonder, well, this doesn't really sound that great. Well, because it's converting. It's like if you took a VHS tape and you put it onto a DVD, well, it's going to look as crappy as VHS did. Even though the DVD is better than the VHS, you're not going to improve what you started with. You're only going to be even or a little bit worse. You follow what I'm saying, Tony?
Yeah, pretty much. All right. Well, I still have you there, Press. One of the questions we were talking about it the other night, and I'm using the same antenna for 2 meters, 440, and DSTAR. Now, if somebody's on, say, 440, emitting on 440 DSTAR, am I stepping all over him, or am I interfering with him?
Well, only if you set your hotspot to be on a frequency that's already being used. So a lot of people will, a lot of people will stay in like the 438 range. Pi-Star will not let you put a frequency into your Pi-Star that is used for satellite, by the way. So thank goodness for that, because there was actually situations where these little bitty, stupid little things were bothering the satellite people. So I can't imagine a little 10 milliwatt hotspot bothering a satellite, but it was happening. So they won't let you put in a satellite frequency, but let's say 438.5, you're not going to bother anybody because the FM repeaters in the 440 to 450 range generally. Okay, so let's see where we are in the talk here. We're getting close to the end, I think. All right. We've talked about registration and personal hotspots. Oh, very important. Everybody listen up. To use a simplex hotspot, you must set your radio to duplex with an offset of 0 megahertz. Why? Well, remember we talked about your call, RPT1, RPT2, and my call. Everybody should know what my call is at this point. My call is the call sign that was associated by the FCC. Your call is the entity to whom you want to communicate with, either linking to a system or talking to anybody, which is CQ. That R1 and R2 business is very important, because if you use simplex, if your radio is set to simplex, you're only going to have an R1 field, and your hotspot will not route it to the internet. You must have an R1 and an R2. But the weird thing is that if your radio is set to simplex, ICOM considers that to be no R2 entry. So you need to make a channel for duplex with an offset of 0. That way you can set the R1, R2. Now, if this is confusing, you can use your software like Chirp, or you can use the ICOM software, or you can use RT Systems, and they will have the drop downs and the information on how to put the R1 and the R2. But if you forget to do RPT2, you're going to wonder why your hotspot isn't working, because it's in simplex and it just isn't going to work. All right, so we did talk about a little bit about Pi-Star. I'm going to ask right now if anybody wants me to orient them to some of the Pi-Star screens. Is anybody at the point where they feel like they are about to or already have Pi-Star and they want to know how to set some of the fields up in Pi-Star? Maybe unmute and go, hey, or.
Yeah, Press, Tony. Yeah, I'd like to see that screen.
Okay, so briefly, I'm going to orient you to a couple of things. Okay, so your Pi-Star, this is the dashboard that tells you what's going on. It's not for any configuration, it's just a dashboard. But in your dashboard, if you go to admin, am I clicking here? Oh, I guess I'm already there. Duh. Configuration. Waiting. I guess the strength of a Pi 0 is showing off how it's not that strong. All right, so in configuration here, so what we have right here is 3 modes configured. I've got DMR, DSTAR, and YSF Fusion. I've got other modes that I hadn't turned on, P25, NXDN, even an internal YSF to DMR bridge. So there's a lot of functions that I only activate the ones that I want because it takes longer and longer for it to scan through all those modes before it'll let me in. So I only activate the modes I want. If I only wanted DSTAR, I would turn off DMR, I would turn off YSF, okay? Under settings here, it says the host name. This is the identity that you look for on your internal network. In other words, the host name is W2PW. It could be my hotspot. It could be whatever you want. It's easy to find the hotspot on your network by putting the host name in. Here's my call sign. Here's my DMR ID. Now, DMR everybody has their own unit ID. This is the one that I've been assigned. You don't have to have a separate DMR ID for your hotspot. This is the same one I would put into my portable. So 3136106 is my DMR ID. The radio frequency, that is what frequency I'm transmitting and receiving on, okay? If I set this to duplex, if I had a duplex capable modem, I would then have a receive and a transmit frequency that's separate. But this is a simplex hotspot, so it only gives me one frequency. There's a green background because I'm not in the satellite band. If I tried to enter a frequency in the satellite band, it would stop me and it would be red. This is your lat and longe if you want to. It doesn't make any sense because it's a portable node, but if I wanted, I could put my house lat and longe, and various entries like what state are you in, what country are you in, what town. I'm fond of could be anywhere, so I'll write that in there. My QRZed page, what type of modem it is. All right, this is going to be important, and I'll give you a pro tip. When you make changes in Pi-Star, it sometimes forgets what modem you're talking about, and therefore you have to go back in last thing and reset the modem. So this is a Zoom Spot single band Raspberry Pi hat. Once you know what your modem type is, write it down, and then if you make some changes and it forgets, you've got to go in there and pick the exact modem type. Now, as you can see here, Pi-Star supports the DV Megas, DVR PTR boards, a DVAP itself, which is only DSTAR, Raspberry Pi hat for like your repeater, tons and tons and tons of different modem types. Node type, is it private or public? I set mine to public. Dashboard language, English, German, French, whatever you want. So these are DMR configurations. What DMR system do I want to use? For DSTAR, here's my B and my G business, that R1, R2 stuff. I've identified this gateway as W2PW space G. W2PW space B is the call sign that's emitted by the node itself. Again, English, reflector, the default reflector that I want to go to, reflector 1 Charlie. Do I want it on startup or manual? I leave it on manual. I don't want to start up that way because it automatically wake up and connect you to a certain reflector. Down here is the Wi-Fi configuration. Okay, that's where you would set your Wi-Fi. So for example, they do something very clever. When you turn your node on for the very first time, if it can't find Wi-Fi, it will turn itself into an access point. You can access it via your laptop. You can go in and configure the Wi-Fi. So what I do again in that order is I train it to my phone, and then I train it to my house in that order. So it's going to look for my phone. If it can't find my phone, it's going to look for my house. It's going to link up automatically. Questions about configuration? I know we're blowing through this pretty fast. This is supposed to be an overview, but I am available for any particular questions that anybody might have. Anybody want to unmute and ask a question? All right, well, we're coming up to the end of my notes. Let's talk about what an outgoing message is.
Press, I have a question. Do they make a hotspot with
Yes.
any, it's Dick, JPQ. Do they make a hotspot with anything other than the Pi Zero? Have they upgraded to the 3?
Oh, yeah.
They do?
Oh, yeah. You can buy a duplex board that is a hat that goes on top of the Pi, and it has 2 antennas. So that board itself is give or take $60. You can slap that on a Pi 3 and have more power. You know, it's amazing that the Pi Zero works at all. So yes, it will be snappier.
That's what I
And
mean.
you could also,
yeah.
And you will also upgrade to having duplex if you wanted to. The duplex board, I get one in the other room if you're curious to see it, but it's basically just a hat that goes on top of the Pi, and you got 2 antennas that stick up. And that's your duplex, so you have a receive and transmit.
I have put my hat on top of a Raspberry Pi 3, so that works too.
Yeah, it'll work great. I've never been a fan of 4s. I think that they're too powerful. They're getting too much out of it, and there's heat and current drain issues with the Pi 4. If you can find a Pi 3, that's the sweet spot in my opinion. Pi 3B version 1.2 actually is nice versus the 3B plus, but the 3B plus takes a little more current, so you really have to have a 2.5 amp power supply. But the 3B version 1.2 is absolutely powerful enough. In fact, I'm running both analog and digital at the same time on a Pi 3BV 1.2. Any questions? All right, so just to wrap it up, there's an outgoing message. Every transmission that I make can have an outgoing message. They're 20 characters long. So for example, I can have en route. I can have on scene. I was following the Mars Pathfinder program, and they had a message that said, "It's getting dark and my battery's low." Just for fun. Danger, 50 ohms. You can say every transmission says, "Get off my lawn." And my personal favorite is, tell the XYL, HTs equal shoes. Anytime your wife goes, "Why do you have all those radios? They all do the same thing." You point out, "Honey, they're like shoes. They all keep your feet off the floor." And she'll say, "Fair enough." So that's it. I'm going to stay around for general questions. But that's as much as I can think of to go over for the overview of DSTAR.
Well, very informative.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you very much.
Tony's locked up from me, but I guess he's back.
Well, thank you very much. I'll have to somehow figure out if I've ever registered for DSTAR.
There's a way to find out. Would you like to know?
Oh, certainly.
I'm glad you asked. Okay, so all right, I have a quick link on my page here. No, not that one. DSTAR dupe query. Okay, so this will allow you to query the system to see if you're already registered. Now, I've got a guy pending registration, and I will not register him if he's already registered. So let's check WB2JPQ. Let's see if he's registered. Would you look at that? He's registered. So since I registered him, not an hour ago, he's already propagated through the system. He is registered on W2TOB in Long Island. Again, it does not matter where he's registered. He's going to be able to use his Western New York repeaters, and nobody's going to know the difference. You just pick a system, any system to log into. What's your call sign? You want to see if you're registered?
A2 light emitting diode.
K2 LED. All right. You are not registered.
Well, thank you very much.
So we get you registered somewhere. I don't care where. I'll register on my system, or you can register on a local system. Again, it does not matter. Once you register anywhere, it's good for the rest of the world.
All right, KB3SNM, please.
All righty, next customer, KB3SNM. Table for 1. You are registered, and you are registered with K3DPR.
We get out there at 6:30. We leave here at 5:30. We can get out there at 7 if you want.
Ross, can you mute,
Sorry.
please? You talking?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Bob, you're registered on K3DPR, which I assume are a system near you. Does anybody else want to check if they're registered?
BA3KVI.
BA3KVI. You are registered with VE3LSR.
Okay, I thought I registered. I couldn't remember or not.
Anybody else want to check?
Who am I registered with? N0MSS.
You don't remember, Ross? You're registered with, I don't know, looks like your own access point. Huh. You're not registered with a system, but you are registered in the system having an access point or a hotspot. Huh. I was today old when I learned how that worked. I didn't know. So yeah, you're in the system.
I don't have to be registered. I don't have to be registered with somebody else's system. This is legit.
This is legit. All right. So I'll put that link in the chat window so you can play around. You can. All right. Okay. Well, open questions. Now's a good time.
All right. How would I find your system to register? Would I search under your call sign?
Well, you would go on to, for example, DSTAR-users.org. Okay, and let's do that together. Oh, hang on a second. Close, copy, share screen. Okay, this is DSTAR-users.org, and you would go to repeater directory, and that would tell you, and you can sort by state. Okay, so you can sort by call sign, city, state. So give me your location. Your what area are you in right now?
Tonawanda, New York.
Okay, so we go down to New York, and we would see what New York systems are available. All right, so we've got Clyde, New York, and you also have all these NYs. So let's see, Albany, Brooklyn, Buffalo, K2ZCE, Fredonia, Fairport's close to you. Who is the KB2VZS? Do you know that one? It's on 444.800.
No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Well, anyway, let's just say we're going to do this. So you click on KB2VZS, it will take you to a listing for that, and then their website would be that. And you click on that, and I've never been there before, but somewhere I would imagine that there's a registration page. Let's try Buffalo.
Yeah, I found one in Buffalo. I'll try registering right there.
Okay, KC2ZCE Buffalo. That's the same call sign as Fairport. Oh, that doesn't have a registration. All right. Well, if they don't want to bother having their website, then they ought not to have any registry.
Niagara Falls is
Oh,
close.
Niagara Falls, KD2GBR. All right. Well, so what you could do is you could go to KD2GBR.DSTAR-Gateway.org, Nope. All right. Well, anybody want to register, they can feel free to register on mine, which is W2TOB. Because I got that one. That one's cooking.
Some information might interest you.
Like I said, you can register it anywhere. So I will put this one up.
Can you hear me?
And I'll look for any new registrations. K2ILH looks like you got some hands going.
Yeah.
Is there any questions?
Really, there's been a lot of trouble with registering with individual repeaters, and things happen to the repeater, and people lose their registration because of it. So the people registering.
That's not exactly correct, because what happens is when you register with a repeater, it propagates to the worldwide network, and then it goes to everybody's repeater. So that repeater that you register with could literally go away, could die, and your registration does not die.
Well,
in fact, you have to go through a special step to become unregistered. If you don't go through a step of unregistering, you are still registered.
That's correct.
Are you thinking that you're registered?
I know I'm registered.
Okay.
Matter
So
of
once
fact,
you register, you don't need to keep registering.
you're missing the point. The point is you don't have to go to a repeater to register. People who are in this area who have recently registered have asked me to register them because I am the repeater trustee.
Okay.
However, we do not register. But you can go to DSTAR-users.org and register directly with the main office, so to speak.
This is probably what we were seeing with N0MSS, because he registered his own hotspot.
Yeah, well, this is what's happening now. And if they ask me, I tell them go there and register. And it works right away, just the same as if it was.
Right.
But there was a problem, and that's why they changed their system.
Okay.
But people who were registered are still registered, and but you don't have to go to a repeater.
Right.
You can go to DSTAR-users.org.
So I've got that link in. I've got that link in the chat window. So everybody, take note of the links in the chat window.
Right.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, maybe I better go get an adult beverage and sit back and
I got a question.
hang out. Yes.
I have an old DV dongle. Can those still be registered and used?
A DV dongle. Okay. DV dongle and DVAP, and even indeed a little hotspot, they do not get registered themselves. Your call sign gets registered, and you go through them as a portal into the system. So you don't need a DV dongle registration, because literally the call sign that you put in to your DV dongle, being N0MSS, is what gets registered. So the actual modem hardware itself, or the access points, or the DV dongles, those don't get registered, because your radio is what your call sign is what get registered.
Right. It's just a USB dongle for the computer. There's no radio involved in it. And the guy that gave it to me told me he said I have to get registered with somebody's repeater.
Right. Because DV dongle is in the DSTAR only, but you are really registering your call sign. The DV dongle gets your call sign and it logs in, but it's not the DV dongle itself gets registered. The DV dongle has no call sign. You have a call sign, and your DV dongle inherits your call sign when you are connected to the network.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Press, this is a different type of question. That when I'm on digital, there is absolutely no squelch.
Start again, Tony, please, because you froze on me a little bit. Start again.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know
Is
if
it me?
somebody's was talking to.
Okay.
I was saying that when I go on to the digital mode in DSTAR, there's absolutely no squelch. I can open it up wide. There isn't a sound.
Right.
Digital? Okay, that's
Yeah. There's no
very nice.
PLs, there's no carrier
Okay,
squelch.
good.
In fact, when you hook your modem up, if I hook my modem up to my repeater, or you hook it up to a base station, you're literally tapping the discriminator. You just got raw coming at it. There's no squelch involved. It's a data operated squelch. The data slicer inside the modem is watching for, you know, headers and communications, and that's when it says, oh, okay, I got some information here, let me start acting on it. So there is no PL, there's no squelch to open or close, there's no noise. It's a totally different experience, as you know.
Yeah, I found.
Well,
All right, that new registration that just got sent in, I personally know him. He might be a hacker, so I'd watch out for him.
that one Vishnu, whatever it is.
Just watch out for the K2 LED guy.
Oh.
I'll vote for him. He's definitely a hacker.
Well, okay, I got K2 LED. All right. And then so I'm gonna license him because I know you're not registered anywhere. So license, update. And then this one here, KJ7 SHM. I'm curious.
I believe he was in,
him.
I don't know if he's still here, but he was here tonight with us.
Okay. So let's go in the dupe checker and put him in. And he's not. So let's go for it. We're going to register him. So now I'm going to send an email to him that he's good to go. Unless he's still, Masato, KJ7, what is it? Oh, it's now sorted the wrong way.
SHM.
The KJ7 station. Yeah. Are you still on here tonight? All right. So I'm going to send him an email.
Where's your repeater located, Press?
We got 2 of them in Long Island.
So my repeater list has towns. It doesn't have states. I got like Salem, Salem, Atlantic City, Cedar Grove.
DSTAR users repeater list. The DSTAR repeater users list can be sorted by states.
Yeah, that was the second field was state.
All righty. Okay, so now I've sent an email to that individual, and let's see. Where's the one that had the DSTAR users? All right. DSTAR info, DSTARusers.org. So yeah, Ross, you were saying under repeater directory, you can sort by call sign, which is not very helpful. City, less helpful. State, okay, that's pretty good. So
let's see if we have,
I showed 2 in Long Island, or Rhode Island, I mean.
Rhode Island?
You're not Rhode Island, you're Long Island, right?
Correct. So, why did that
New York
start?
State.
Okay, I'll show you my 2 ones. You go to NY, and
Yours is W2TAO.
W2 Tango Oscar Bravo.
We need Port Jervis.
Yeah, no, I'm WD2NY and W2TOB. So this one right here, and this one right here. But we have a problem with the registration page on WD2NY, so don't bother with that one. But anybody want to register and they can't find a one, you can use W2TOB. I also have this call. I also have this call sign, which is kind of cool. WD5TAR. It looks like WD-STAR. But anyway. All righty.
Well, thank you, Pres.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure. If anybody wants a refresher or visit this again,